Hello, everyone. 72nd meeting AWS User Group in Kraków is starting. I will give you a microphone. Don't worry. Don't worry. Today we are doing a real hybrid one. So the one speaker, it's from the void, from the internet. Tomasz is here with us. Today he will speak about his experience from Raven and what he's thinking is important there. Together with ПаWеł. You want to say a few words? Because I'm usually speaking. Oh, perfect.
Great. Okay, so we had our 10 time for pizza, for drinks, and now we'll be going. The first presentation, as Marcin said already, will be from Tomek about Reinvented. And the second presentation will be from Znako about AI topics and exactly FL Ops and ML Ops from what I saw. So we'll see two nice presentations today. Are you ready? That was a pretty long break from the last meeting, so I hope everybody will enjoy.
So a few words about Tomasz. He's ex-Java developer. He came from this dark side of the force to the bright side of the force by going with AWS. He's claiming in his CV or his resume that he wants to create clean code for AWS infrastructure. Our machine learning hero and a leader of AWS User Group Wrocław. Yeah, I think the stage is yours, Tomasz. I made enough but pick up for you, right? So no, it's no pressure, buddy. You have how much time you need? Raven is a long party.
So I'll try to keep it short. Anyway, you guys need to put on my screen for the audience. And if you give me a sign that it's visible, I will start. It probably is. But I would rather hear somebody say that. Or just type it. Anyone? This is becoming awkward, but
don't worry, don't worry. We see you, we hear you, so you can go through it.
Okay, excellent. So hello everyone. I'm sorry not to be there in Kraków. It feels like it's coronavirus all over again with remote presentations. However, I'll try to keep it interesting anyway, and it's live, so you can feel free to ask Маciej to interrupt me and ask questions if you wish. So it is not a pre-recorded web stream of some kind. So what do we have today? Reinvent Recap 2024 is the topic. I'll try to keep it short, and because as you may expect, to those of you that don't know that, Reinvent is probably the largest cloud conference in the world, and this is the place in which AWS presents a lot of new features, new services, new products every year. Approximately 1 month ago in Las Vegas, and I will tell you more about the new goodies in AI/ML around Reinvent. So it's going to cover mostly SageMaker and Bedrock. I've skipped Q because that presentation would have taken me too long. There's also some minor other tweaks that I will tackle as well. So Маciej already.
Sorry, could you, Tomasz? You know what? We have some problem with internet here, and I think we can connect to something to different Wi-Fi, and I hope we will hear you better because it's just breaking. So stop your horses a moment, and I will just. Wait a second. And here it should be visible. ML. And this is the password. Okay. Should work. Wait a second. Do you hear us now?
Yes.
Tomasz? Perfect. And I think it's better, so you can continue. Sorry for that.
All right. Yeah. Sorry for the interruptions. It usually happens in hybrid scenarios. So the agenda is, as you can see, SageMaker, Bedrock, and some other minor tweaks. So let's dive straight into the topic. However, some initial remarks. Most of the features that I will be tackling are US West 2 centric for some reason. So you may not see them in Europe yet, but they will eventually come. So a lot of them are previews, either public ones or private ones. So for the public ones, you can try out those features yourself. For the private ones, you need to beg AWS to let you try it out. They are subject to change, as the previews are subject to change. So be careful if you plan to actually deploy something on production on those previews. Of course, I won't mention every single change from reInvent, only the subjectively speaking most important ones. And that's a personal remark. If I hang at some point, it might be due to my health, and I apologize for that. So maybe it won't happen. Anyway, let's go. Amazon SageMaker. So what's new around it? Well, I remember when the VP of data went on a stage. I was actually at the Amazon SageMaker console on AWS for various reasons. And what struck me is that suddenly everything was called Amazon SageMaker AI. So whatever you currently connect to a word SageMaker from before reInvent is now SageMaker AI. That's the major rebranding change that you may have seen already. So the internet is probably confusing right now because there's plenty of articles about SageMaker something, but in fact, it's now SageMaker AI something. But the VP of data and AI kept speaking, and I kept looking at the documentation, what has changed. And to my surprise, I went to Amazon Data Zone, which welcomed me with not Amazon Data Zone, but Amazon SageMaker for some reason. But the confusion didn't stop there. I went to Amazon SageMaker landing page, looked at some weird concept called Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse, hovered over one of the next steps, and to my surprise, it might not be visible, but on the bottom, that link connects to AWS Lake Formation. That's weird. And then I went into capabilities of Amazon SageMaker only to see Redshift as one of the capabilities. Sounds confusing, right? So, and finally, I found something that pointed, that hinted what actually happened. So there was a kind of rebranding of the entire SageMaker world. What I mean by that is that previously SageMaker was the go-to service to build and train AI algorithms, right? Whenever somebody mentioned AI, it was mostly SageMaker that had something to do with it. Right now, they've changed into data and AI. So SageMaker is no longer a service that is made for AI, it's made for data and AI, which means that they've created a unified umbrella service that connects all possible services that you may need while building data and AI solutions. That, of course, includes the old SageMaker, which is now SageMaker AI, but the portfolio is much wider. So, so what's SageMaker currently? Well, the central point of it is called Amazon SageMaker Studio, or actually Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio. And this is your go-to place in AWS to start working around data and AI projects. As you can see, there are several boxes. So one of those boxes is the good old SageMaker AI, but there's more. So what you can do is explore, analyze, and process your data sets from within SageMaker. You are using either Athena, Glue, Redshift, so the technologies that you already know, or you can use a new technology called Amazon SageMaker Lakehouse, which is essentially a wrapper on top of Lake Formation and Amazon S3 tables, I believe. So there's basically a new UI to existing services such as Athena inside Amazon SageMaker. That lets you analyze data, wrangle it, and so on. But this doesn't stop there. Of course, there's the old SageMaker, so SageMaker AI as well. So after you've processed that data, you can then train algorithms using the good old SageMaker AI. I won't dive deeper into that because nothing has changed there. Finally, if you're familiar with something called Amazon Bedrock Studio, which was the former name, it's now called Amazon Bedrock IDE, and for various reasons, it's available in Amazon SageMaker as well. So they've changed the name of Bedrock Studio to Bedrock IDE, and they've put it into the new SageMaker Unified Studio as well. So you've got the component to build Bedrock-based applications inside SageMaker as well. So if you're familiar with competitors, this move resembles consolidating all the services for the data and AI into one product. Of course, this isn't a single product. This is multiple services that you can use, but it resembles either Microsoft Fabrics or even Databricks. So it's an umbrella service, one service to rule them all. Right now, the marketing department of Amazon can just tell customers, yes, we do data and AI, just open Amazon SageMaker, and you can do that. And previously, they had to list all the 20 services you might need to analyze your data. What's important is that old technologies, old stuff still works as standalone, which means that you are not forced to use Redshift through SageMaker or SageMaker AI through SageMaker, the new SageMaker, or Athena. Everything works as usual, at least for the time being. Maybe they will force you to do that. There's also Q Developer everywhere. So in each of those UIs, the vision of AWS is that Q Developer will do a lot of things on your behalf or to support you. The only question that I have personally is, does it really fit the modern workflow? Because especially data engineers are much closer to software engineering these days than you may expect. And this studio, this data-related studio, is mostly a UI. It doesn't support any kind of infrastructure as code. It's just for clicking everywhere. So I'm not sure if that will fit the workflow. However, the vision of AWS is that a single team will work in a single place and everyone will be able to share the work with each other if necessary. Because right now, data engineering teams have their own toys, data science teams have their own toys. They are, of course, they are integrated, but at the same time, they use different UIs, different setups, and so on. So this move consolidates everything. So at the same time, the change is not that big at the moment. The service is, the Unified Studio is in preview, Lakehouse is in preview, so you can just go to US West 2 and test it out if you wish. And that's about SageMaker. So this was a huge change, which is also a minor change in my opinion, but we'll see how it plays out. All right, Amazon Bedrock. So there were several changes or new things related to Bedrock. So what's Amazon Bedrock? Previously, or when the service came out, I've used this slide to demonstrate what Bedrock is. Essentially a foundation model provider. So I, as a user, can send a prompt, select a model, and the prompt will be sent to that model, and I will get back my response. That was the general idea behind Bedrock when it came out as a generally available service. However, a lot has changed since then. It's no longer just foundation model as a service, but rather a fully fledged toolbox to build generative AI applications. So you've got agents there, you've got guardrails to protect your applications, you've got knowledge bases to build retrieval augmented generation powered solutions. You've got this Bedrock ID, you've got Bedrock flows to chain your prompts. So there's plenty of sub-services within Bedrock that you can use. It's no longer a foundation model as a service. For some reason, okay. got it. Probably I'm back on the screen. So that's Bedrock, and what's new about it? I will start with something that's technically not Bedrock, but available only through Bedrock. So yes, Amazon has released their own models, the Nova family. There's plenty of them. There are regular foundation models that can analyze text, text, images, videos, and so on. There's image generation model. There's video generation model. Benchmark seem cool, and I will more on that later. There's also speech-to-speech model that's coming soon, and any-to-any model, so any modality to any modality model coming soon. So what's so important about Nova family? Well, personally, the fact that they do not suck. So if you've used the previous family of models, Titan, have you? Probably not, because not many of us. Maybe some of you have tried them out, but probably that was the end of it. Maybe you've used Titan embeddings, which was the necessity because it was one of the few embedding models in Bedrock, but that's it. Titan Text Premier. I've never personally seen any project that used that model. But enough bashing of Amazon. So this time they've released a new family of models. And what's important is that on independent benchmarks, they are actually on par with existing top models. That's the most important part here. So they basically are as good or comparable to Claude or to Metalama or GPT-4o. Of course, there are differences in various benchmarks. So as you can see, some of them might be better at some contexts, but they are definitely state-of-the-art quality, which means there is a new player in town. So I personally think that this year we'll see more of those releases, and Amazon will finally no longer be outside of the foundation model game. Because currently, if you think about it, it was mostly Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, of course, Mistral maybe, Meta, and some Chinese companies as well. And that's it, right? And we have Amazon in the game right now, which is important because the more competition there is, the better for the customers usually. And that's only a theory, by the way, but I think that you may be able to strike a deal with Amazon for Nova pricing because in Bedrock. Because for other models, they were not; those models were not created by Amazon, so you couldn't have better pricing for Claude or for Mistral because that would involve third party. And right now, maybe you can do that because Amazon owns both Amazon Bedrock and Amazon Nova, so there's a possibility. So that's Amazon Nova. There's also a fully fledged model catalog or marketplace in Bedrock because what Amazon likes to repeat on every single conference is that there isn't a single model, there won't be a single model to rule them all. There will be specialized models that tackle specialized tasks and so on. Whether it's true or not, we'll see about it. So the bet of Amazon is that it's true. And so they've created a model catalog. You can browse various models, you can buy access to those models, all within Amazon Bedrock UI. Apart from that, they've also mentioned new model providers, Poolside, which they made it seem like a big thing. I haven't personally heard about it, but it's a model to build AI software engineers, so kind of risky for us, right? But it will be available through Bedrock. Stability AI and its newest Stability 3.5 will also be available. And Luma AI, one of the leading video generation models, will also be available through Amazon Bedrock, which is kind of nice. And it's always good to have more choice if you need it. So that's about models. What about prompts, the central concept in generative AI? There are 3 cool features. Some of them are in preview. I forgot which ones, so bear that in mind. But we've got let's start with prompt routers. So if you think about any task that you force the LLM to do for you, not all of those tasks require the best model, the most capable model. You are most likely using too powerful model for some of your queries, for some of your prompts, because smaller models can also respond just right for them. So it would be great to somehow decide when you type in a prompt to a model, then you might want to decide which model should receive that prompt. Do you want the Claude Sonnet or do you want Claude Haiku? Because Haiku might be just as good. And as you may expect, this is exactly what prompt router was made to solve. There are two routers right now. One is anthropic router. The second one is meta router. And I'm not sure if that's visible, but it routes between Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Claude 3 Haiku, or Llama 70B versus 8B. And it's kind of useful for many people because, as I said, you are most likely using too powerful models. So why not use smaller models that are cheaper and faster? There's little downside. So that's one thing. The second thing is prompt caching. If you the best way of explanation of prompt caching is to just provide you an example. If you have a large PDF, you upload the contents of that PDF and you ask a question, hey, what's the PDF about? The LLM responds, and then you ask a follow-up question, the second question about the same document. So what happens then? Well, without any kind of caching, what will happen is that the model will actually need to read, quote unquote, the entire document once again. So if you think about humans, you can probably read a document once and then answer several questions based on that document, right? But models cannot. You need to, or you needed to, provide the document every time you needed to ask a question about it. This is exactly prompt caching. One of the use cases from prompt caching. You can save a checkpoint or a state of a model's mind, I would put it that way. And the model will no longer need to read large prompt or large document because it will cache a checkpoint of that model, of that prompt instead. It's useful as per Anthropic's documentation. It's useful for large document processing or for agents or for coding assistants. You can basically cache a lot of content into the model and not force it to use it every time, to re-read it every time. And finally, prompt optimization. So if you're not an expert prompt writer, you can always use another LLM to rewrite your prompt. So as you can see on the left, this is just you're an AWS Solutions Architect. That's it. And if you click a button, after a brief while, you will get that thing on the right, a very detailed instruction for the model. Pretty simple to explain, right? And useful. However, just a note from my side, the longer the prompt, the slower the response and the higher the cost. And the answer might not necessarily be better. So you don't always need to write that lengthy prompts, just saying. But usually they bring some better results, but you need to test it out. All right, so that's about prompts. Let's go into RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. A very brief reminder what RAG is. It's not the hottest topic anymore because the hottest topics are agents or agentic reasoning right now. So RAG is 2024, but well, still. So what's RAG? RAG is the easiest way to give some, well, I will hide it for now. is the easiest way to give a model some context about your company, your products, your users, your data without training the model. So instead of training a model on your data, you can just pass the data during runtime. And this saves a lot of time and cost and efficiency, and was the hottest topic of 2024 in Gen AI. So in general, you've got a user, you've got your data set, you store it into a database using various tricks, vectors, embeddings, doesn't matter really. And then when you have a user that asks some question, let's say, what research have we done on chemical component X and what's its current price? The model doesn't know that because it was not trained on that data. But using some tricks, it's kind of similar to search engine, really, semantic search engine. You look for relevant documents in your database, you find them, and then you ask the model, hey, you see that question of the user? Here are some documents that you might find useful to answer that. Please construct an answer. And then the LLM does just that. So that's the basic idea behind retrieval augmented generation in general. Not really related to AWS Bedrock or anything. It works the same way in OpenAI or elsewhere. So in Bedrock, you've got a sub-service called Bedrock Knowledge Bases. What's that? That's end-to-end retrieval augmented generation creator. I must admit it's a handy tool. We do have several deployments already, and it streamlines the data engineering parts around RAG. So if any of you have built any kind of RAG solutions, you probably know there's plenty of data engineering. There are the data changes, you need to reindex it, update, delete, embed, parse, chunk, and so on. It's not strictly hard or it's just time consuming. So they've kind of created a black box service to handle that. And there's plenty of changes in that service after reinvent. So first of all, they've added structured data store. So as per this screenshot, if you think about questions, if you're building a virtual assistant and you start asking questions, hey, what were the most important product categories by revenue in Washington state last month? And then if I jump back to this, what you've done in the naive RAG approach, you probably indexed a lot of documents, PDFs, basically your documentation. But such questions are not in your documentation. They are in your database and only there. So the idea is to just let the model access your relational database if the model finds such question. And that's exactly what's happening in the Amazon Bedrock Knowledge Bases for structured data stores. And under the hood, it's a text to SQL implementation. If the application sees such question, they will just write a SQL query on your behalf, execute it, and return the response to your user. That's basically it. It's a the feature, in my opinion, needs some more work because, for example, it only supports Redshift for the time being, but the service team is well aware that not everyone has data in Redshift. But at the same time, this is a very requested feature. Every time we build a chatbot for our customer, some of the feedback was, oh, why don't we give access to this database and that database? So it's a common feature request, usually, based on my experience. And right now, it will be possible to just hook your database into knowledge bases. As I said, for the time being, only Redshift, so not for everyone. But as the time passes, they will support more data stores. There's also a Kendra Gen AI index support. Kendra Kendra is kind of predates the retrieval augmented generation pattern. So it was created in the times where LLMs weren't a thing, I believe. Amazon almost killed that service because it performed badly. And then around 2023, they revived it, and it's still a thing. However, it's much higher level service than most services in AWS. And I haven't personally checked that out, so I won't dive any deeper. I just want to point out that if you have a Kendra index, you can hook it to Bedrock knowledge bases as well. And Kendra is enterprise search engine, kind of like RAG, to be honest. And finally, GraphRag support. That's also an observation after building retrieval augmented generation powered solutions during last year, is that your data needs relationships between other data sets to be present in order for some queries to be effective. Because otherwise, you just cannot answer every single query of your user. Because you will need to collect data from various data sources in order to do that. And the idea here is to use graphs. So to store your knowledge base, not only using documents, but also graphs that store entities and relationships between those documents. And this way, the potential responses will be better. It's in private preview, I think, so I did not have chance to actually use that. It's based on Neptune Analytics. If you'd like to know more, just dive deeper there. All right, what's next? Data automation, also known as GenAI ETL. So it turns out there's plenty of documents on that screen, right? And it turns out that generative AI models are kind of good at parsing scanned documents. So if any of you have built invoice OCR engine lately, I mean, not lately, but several years ago, this was a hassle. So there were projects spanned over multiple years trying to build a reliable OCR engine. Because it was hard. The computer vision models were there, OCR models were there, but they just weren't as good as you may expect. And right now, the vision language models, such as Claude or Nova or GPT-4o, can parse those. So the idea here is to, the entire idea is to just use those models to transform text-based documents into machine-friendly form, such as JSON. So you can just scan driver licenses or birth certificates or payslips or invoices or passports and put it as a JSON by just using vision language models. And that's exactly what's happening here in the Amazon Bedrock data automation. That's also a part of knowledge bases, but it's also a standalone service. As you can see on the left here, there's a data automation preview. So, so what you can do with it is either parse your documents for regular retrieval augmented generation methods. Because if you think about it, if you open any kind of documentation that you have, there will be tables, there will be diagrams, there will be drawings, there will be memes. There won't be just text. That's my point. And you can use that to extract the meaningful information out of your documents before you index them into your database. So that's one use case. The second use case is intelligent document processing, and that's exactly what's seen here. A lot of documents you can just use built by Amazon blueprints to parse those documents, or if you wish, you can create your own blueprints, for example, for Polish documents. It works as well. And finally, media analysis. That's also another flavor of GenAI ETL, but Imagine you need to build a search engine for a TV. How do you do that? You would need to describe every single video or every single recording, transcribe it, and describe every, maybe not every frame, but every scene. Who was there? What happened? And then you could theoretically ask, hey, can you find me a clip in which there is a person flying an airplane through Mount Everest or something like that. And that's by the way what media companies are indeed building and have built. And right now you can use Gen AI models to perform that video and image description on your behalf. And that's also possible using Amazon Bedrock data automation. All right. Just a couple things left. RAG evaluation. So one of the important points that were not apparent when everyone started building assistants is how do you even judge or measure their effectiveness? So how do you know that it works? It turns out you can just build test data sets to do that. And that's exactly what this feature is. But how does a test data set look like? Let's say you've built an assistant on top of Amazon documentation. So you could build a test data set that looks as such. On the bottom, you see a sample question. What is an AWS Lambda trigger? And on the top, you see an expected response. A trigger is a resource or configuration that involves a Lambda function, blah, blah, blah. So basically, question and expected answer. Where's the problem? Well, the problem is that every time you ask your assistant, the response is going to be slightly different because LLMs are always responding. Every time you ask something, you get a slightly different response, right? So how do you tackle that? Well, you use another LLM. So you use another LLM to compare your answer and expected answer and decide whether it looks fine or not. And that's exactly what RAG evaluation in Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases is. You create a test data set and then you can run it through automatically using another LLM to just be the judge if the answer is correct or not. You can measure a lot of things such as helpfulness, correctness, harmfulness. There's plenty of metrics coming from natural language processing that you might find useful. And that's pretty cool feature, in my opinion, as we had to build it ourselves. In general, a lot of stuff that I'm showing today, me and my team, we had to build it over the course of the last year because they weren't available. And right now they are just one checkbox away. And we are left with a technical debt. Well, that's the cost of early adoption, I guess. All right, Bedrock agents. So Bedrock agents are Amazon created service to streamline agent building. And agents are kind of like autonomous applications that are whose behavior is controlled by a LLM. The idea is really simple. You just ask, hey, the user asked me to create a financial report. What should I do? I can access this system, I can access finance system, I can access that system. And you pass all that to a LLM and ask them, what should you do? Then the LLM responds, okay, let's open the financial system, and responds to your application exactly that. And then your application opens that system and once again tells the LLM, hey, I've opened that system. Here's the result. And the LLM tells you what to do next. And you run it in a loop and you've got an agent. So what's a multi-agent collaboration preview? I'm pretty sure you can guess it by now. You can orchestrate multiple agents working towards the same goal. Why would you have multiple agents? Well, it turns out that just like in programming, there is there's often a benefit into splitting a task into subtasks, smaller, more digestible tasks. This is visible here. For example, let's think you want to build a social media agent that would need to write content, decide who should see that content, decide when that content should be posted, and so on. This entire pattern could have been one agent, but it turns out that it's often better to split it into smaller agents. So instead of having one agent do everything, you create a content strategist agent to only write posts. You create an agent to optimize timing and reach of posts. And you create an agent that manages those sub-agents and combines results from them. That's multi-agent collaboration. And it's now available in Amazon Bedrock in preview. So if you're using Amazon Bedrock agents, that might be useful for you. And finally, Amazon Bedrock model distillation. That's the last thing from Bedrock-related announcements. And we're heading towards the end of the presentation, by the way. Model distillation. This is, well, the idea is slightly similar to prompt routers. What I mean by that is we are often using too powerful models for too simple questions. So instead of using a powerful model to answer your questions based on your data, you can theoretically train a smaller model onto to solve a particular task for you. So let's say your only task is to extract some knowledge out of a text or summarize something. So the large model that can do that can do a lot of other things. It can translate. It can write Python code. It can write poems. But you don't need that capacities if all your application is doing is extracting some text, some data out of text, right? All those other capabilities are just useless. So the idea here is to use a powerful model to teach smaller model. That's the idea of model distillation. And you basically create a training set of your prompts and expected answers. You pass it to that large model. That large model generates a synthetic data out of your data. So it basically generates more examples. And then you run a fine-tuning on a smaller model. And you've got a distilled model. So the magic is really in this synthetic data creation. And this is a way that for some reason works, that the small model on a particular task can be as good as that larger model, because the larger model kind of knows the secret sauce and knows what kind of data would be most efficient for the smaller student model to be used. And in the end, what you can do is just use a smaller model for a particular task instead of using overpowered large model and waste a lot of money. Yeah, so that's Amazon Bedrock. And the last, that's exactly the last slide that I have, except for, there's one more after that. There will be new type of instances. So the newest architecture from NVIDIA, the Blackwell, will be available on Amazon. There's also a new family P5EN with the currently it's H200, I believe, from NVIDIA. They are also available in Bedrock, not in Bedrock, I apologize, in Amazon, in AWS. And finally, they are still committed to using Trainium, to build Trainium. So they've mentioned that Trainium 2 was huge success, Anthropic is using it, blah, blah, blah. And we are committed to build even the newest generation of chips ourselves, which will be Trainium free and will be released later this year. So it looks like NVIDIA has a lot of competition. Of course, they are also the largest company in the market, so we'll see how it plays out. But both AWS and Google as well, probably Microsoft, everyone tries to build their own chips as well. Even there was also a rumor that OpenAI wants to do that as well. We'll see how it goes. And that's basically it. Thank you very much for having me. I've been told to put this slide last, so there is some kind of quiz.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Is there any questions from the audience here? No questions. No? Ready? Even the tiny one? Okay. Tomasz, thank you very much. And glad that you were able to join, even that you're remotely, but we are very happy to have you here. And thank you very much. Get some applause for him, you know. He's remote, but he's respectful, yeah.
Yes, I heard that. Thank you. Thank you
yeah,
very
that's
much.
the people here. I hope you see them. Tomasz, thank you very much. We processing directly, right? You ready? Are you eating? Come on, man. You had a beginning to eat. Now you're eating, huh? Perfect. Don't worry. Connect yourself, and if you may help.
Maybe 5-minute break.
Just don't go, outside. It's cold, so stay here, guys, and we will just change the laptop. So it's going to be a really technical break. So just a moment. lovely presentation. No, don't worry. Don't worry. It's like nobody's waiting, so no pressure. I will like you will be like this. Hey, guys.
We'll make you a little bit not louder. Okay, so is everybody ready for the second presentation? We'll not be changing the topics because it also will be about
surprisingly AI.
Yeah,
like nobody expected, huh?
Who's surprised? 24, 25 to which 30 maybe when it will end?
I don't know. It's just everywhere.
Okay, so one thing from us, we wanted to take a photo of everybody, if that's not a problem.
He have a very long hand, so we will use him as a. Hey, join here. We'll see each other.
I don't want to just be looking the entire camera.
Hey, I see your face. No, it's my belly. Oh shit.
Okay, so.
All right, perfect.
Something for social media done.
So FinOps, the
FLOps,
AI
MLOps.
manager, a super hardcore practice in AWS, right? Tell more.
Yeah, so there will be a presentation about FLOps, MLOps, and a lot of other keywords about AI.
Production. How you go to production? Yes. In summary.
Yeah, so we were talking about theory, and now we'll be talking about practice, from what I understood. And let's give a round of applause for Znako.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope that I'm not too loud, or if you hear me clearly, that will be great. Do you hear me clear in the back? Not loud? Cool. So as you see, I'm Znako. I'm a practice manager for data AI, ML, Gen AI, all the AI cool stuff out there at the AWS Generative AI Innovation and Delivery Center. Been doing AI, ML more than 17 years. Started in 2007 doing AI and trying to predict genomes, how we adapt, how we evolve in math in laboratories. So my journey started at university. So last 7 years, I moved to private sector and currently doing AI works, helping customers how to move really from theoretical POC to business value, because this is cool. And if it's a cool, what businesses can drive to me? How probably all of you working in a company, majority of you in IT company, how I can be more productive, how I can make my job easier, less stressful, how to fix a bug that really you spend the day on it and later you find out, oh, I missed a comma. And it happened to all of us. So as you see, I'm a manager, but I'm an engineer by heart. So I will still enjoy doing a lot of engineering work rather than managerial work. So today, I talk about how we go to production, because with all new technologies, it comes, you wanted to really drive a business value. I remember 2016, 17, 18, a lot of customers coming in, oh, AI is cool. We want to use AI. It's a magic. It can solve all the problems we have. Then everybody wanted to do a POC, spend a couple $100,000, and then ask them, okay, so what's next? Okay, we don't have the people. We don't know what to do with it. Throw it away. Money went to waste. So that's where I said, okay, let's focus on that. How we can build a platform, actually, instead of a month, in hours, you have a platform ready that you can put your model into production. And we have done that. Now, GenAI just started. 2020, probably now is a mainstream. I was working with GenAI stuff 2017, 18 until 2022. I developed a bit of this Hugging Face containers. You are using it. And creating some of the models as well with the Neuron SDK on AWS. So today I'm trying not to focus on theoretical part, the cool stuff, but rather on what it takes to take things to production. You might come up with a building a solution, and then you take it to production, and that's where you hit the wall. Because if you build a GenAI solution, you can use it now, you can give it to 50 people in your company. What about if your company have 100,000 people? Well, if you wanted to build a ChatGPT-like solution, give it to everybody, use it responsibly, and you monitor actually and keep your data safe. Before me, Tomasz talked about it, why data zone and SageMaker being combined, data and AI governance. And that's a huge problem for any business want to adapt a data-driven decision-making into their work and also use AI in modern day where we have a lot of regulation to comply to. So that's what I will be focusing on. Of course, nothing goes without an agenda. Today, I will give you what's MLOps. I'm hoping that you're familiar with it. I will talk about foundational model operations. I will be talking about large language operations and mainly focus on foundational model as well because ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, Anthropic Clouds, Amazon Nova models, all of that is actually coming from providers. And you encounter really completely different new personas and job title that didn't exist 2 years ago. So that's why I like the prompt engineering part you talked about. Now I'm training to become a prompt engineering manager in the next 2 years. There will be a job title like that, I guarantee you that. So what's MLOps? MLOps is really nothing, just combination of people, technology, and process. With that, you need process input. You need access to technology, and you need your people to be skilled to bring these three together to build an automation around machine learning. And why it's important? Because traditionally speaking, you build machine learning in order to create a platform with a team, really a well-defined two-pizza team around 5 to 8 people. You need 6 months to create a platform. You need data science to write code, pass it to ML engineer to re-optimize the code. You need a DevOps to build automation around that CI/CD pipeline for it. You need infrastructure to build a scalability. That's what's a problem, is time consuming. So it's a time to value. If I have an idea and I do a prototype, how fast I can take it to production that the business provide value. For the business, make people life easier, diagnose new diseases, make education accessible more, all of that. So usually it takes really between 6 to 12 months, all the customers I have worked with in the past. Now, we have brought this down to 3 months. Even now, this is data 1.5 years old. Now, in 2 hours, you have an ML platform deployed. An ML platform deployed, with a click, you create, with a catalog, you create a new project, add lead data scientist or project manager, and add the data science team to work on it. That all scalability, CI/CD is part of it. And of course, simplify route to life. Now you have a machine learning model because there is a risk, especially in regulated industries. Imagine that you are a bank, you have a loan, a machine learning model to decide, should I give a person a loan or reject that? That's a huge decision because it involves a lot of bias in the data. How we are making sure that this time is used, who are the person, the people, individual making that decision, is this model go to production or not? How we can simplify that? And of course, before you needed a lot of people, 3 to 6 months, now in less than 2 weeks. Another thing is a standardizing infrastructure. You might have a different department working on machine learning. It takes time to standardize. Everybody have their own favorite tool. So how we can bring all of this together to standardize it, to making sure that we move faster. Before they didn't exist. Now 85%, more than 89% are standardized. Of onboarding people. Onboarding people before it was like you need to get them access, you need to set it up, you need to provide permission, give them username, train them. It takes you a lot of time to bring them on. And then we still hit hiccups, things you didn't know about it. All of that is gone now. It's less than 1 hour. I would say that even 15 minutes, you can set up a new project for the people you wanted to work on it, and they have their own accesses, all the things they needed to do their job without having any blockers. Lastly is security. Security standards and compliance as well is very important. When I say that no internet, everywhere there is an internet, but no internet means that private space, that nobody from common internet can access to it. Your traffic is secure goes through an infrastructure backbone that's completely isolated, or you don't want your data science team downloading packages from internet, for example. Because if you read a recent report that there are tens of thousands of Python packages actually with malwares. And just Docker a couple of days ago had an issue like that. Yeah. If you're using Docker, probably you have got a notification, an email, something like that in the last few days. So it's about reducing the platform, people, and operational cost at the end of the day. We are reducing costs, we are moving faster, we are bringing more to value. And of course, with the people and process, we have a lot of personas happening here. One of them is a platform administrator you have. Then what you have at the bottom line, you have people working with the data, because with an AI ML work, you need the data. Without that, you cannot do anything, even with Gen AI now. So you have a data engineer, data owner, business stakeholders, data subject matter experiment. You need an experimentation environment. Then you need to build a model, test it, and deploy it. And this is need a complete isolation, these steps, because you don't want to, I can tell you that just today, I was talking with a person working in a company, a very well-known company. If you play a game, definitely you play a game from this company. And they have their production test and dev environment in one AWS accounts, and every person have admin access. And that in itself is a literally recipe for disaster. So that's why it's important when you have a model, you separate that account. Prod is a sacred. It has to be really limited who has access to it. Then you need a governance. On the top of all of that, you need a governance that's a protocol. If you have a new model, who do this deployment model, and actually how you are doing auditing and compliance. Because in a lot of regulatory environments, that when you have a prediction in a model, you should be able to explain why it reached these decisions. So such as the loan example, you have to use a model that actually explains that for you rather than a deep neural network, which is a black box. And of course, converting that to icons and services and accounts. If you needed to figure out all of this, you might needed 10 years experience or a team of 10, each one of them with 3 years at least experience to build something like that. That's a lot of cost and people. Now you can have that in 2 hours. Of course, moving on from this MLOps, now we know that MLOps part technology, people, and process, but where does foundational model fits in? So there is a bit of overlap. Yeah, I would say a lot of overlap, but there is a new things that's really specific to foundational model, which is, we know what the foundational model does. Tomasz talked about it, and also we have a large language models do that. And of course, with a foundational model, you have a bit of new personas. You have a new people, process, and people. Before we had the machine learning models, you built it yourself from scratch. But now you have a different option. You can have a provider like OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, AWS, Amazon. So you have a lot of providers out there that you can take it and use it depending on what you want to do. Then there is a fine-tuners. Fine-tuner, these are the companies or peoples that take an open source model, they add the data to it and fine-tune it. Imagine that Llama models. You can take it, add your data to it, and fine-tune it, deploy it for yourself. Another one is consumers. Consumers, me and you. People like us that access these websites and subscribe to it or deploy some model locally. For ourselves, we use it. So as you see, the person has changed. Some people need a lot of compute to train the models and become a provider, seller. Some of them become a buyer like us. Some of them is actually, I don't buy, I don't sell, I will do my thing my own. Then another thing is about select and customizing FM model on specific context. These models are generic, performs a lot of task content, but sometimes you need a model specialized for a specific task. And that's where your fine-tuning comes in. And of course, there are model closed source, there are model open source. You need to evaluate and monitor these models. Bedrock provide you, for example, LLM as a judge. And definitely there will be something soon, LLM as a jury. And actually that's much more powerful than LLM as a judge. There will be data and model deployment. Data privacy is a problem. That's something comes because you might have a lot of your business secrets, confidential data. You put it into a tool out there without consideration what happens with the data I'm providing there. Will this data be part of the training? If it will be part of a training for the next version of the model, and that data become accessible for everybody accessing this model, if they ask a context like that. So that's a huge risk for business. That's a huge risk also to protect your intellectual property. Technology. There are a lot, you have operation, you have application layers, things like that to do it. And of course, all of that will be in this part of the circle. But for generative AI users, we have a different types and skill sets in that. So provider, fine-tuner, consumer. Provider, as I mentioned, is that those entity pre-trained FM models or from scratch. Fine-tuners, they customize it based on their use cases. Consumers, we just interact with the service. And of course, for each one of them, you need a different skill set. Starting from the consumer, you don't need really any skill set. I would rephrase that. Actually, you need skill set. I would say is the most important thing. How to ask a right question. And that's the biggest problem. I always work with the customers. It's not about the skill set they have. Is it about, do we ask a right question? Is it really what we try to solve or not? I can give you a customer came and said, okay, I have this problem. I want to sell something discounted. Say, okay, why? He said, because I lose 20 million euro a year because of that. And I said, okay, can we look at it? We looked at it. Actually, 50,000 euro was the problem. And the company was ready to pay €500,000. I said, that's not your problem. Because right question, asking the right question is really critical here. Prompt engineering, yes, you can use Gen AI to ask a question, generate a prompt for you, but asking the right question at the LLM is actually provide you much higher quality answer. For fine-tuners, you need strong end-to-end ML expertise. For fine-tuners, you need deep knowledge of end-to-end ML, NLP expertise, data scientists, people labeling the data. That's also very critical. And of course, some of that is interchangeable. A company can be fine-tuner, it can be a provider. Just check these open source companies. They have a model, a version, they release a new version. And that version is actually built on the top of the previous one. It's not done from scratch. So they also at the same time become fine-tuners. Okay. Now, the journey of consumer, what it looks like. So now you see that I'm a consumer. There are a ton of models out there. just on Bedrock, there is probably almost 100 models. Which one to choose? And that's problem. That's a dilemma itself, dilemma of choice. I have all this model, which one I wanted to use it. Then deciding that, what's an input and output and rating for that? So sort of as a trade-off between penalizing or rewarding the solution output for you. Now, this is going to be a feedback for you, feedback loop. So imagine that there are more than 20,000 models out there that you can choose from it and use it as a consumer. If I wanted to do that based on my use case, step one is to understand top priority and we benchmark it based on use case. Let's say I'm saying there is a 20. I am choosing these 3 because of their capability meeting my use case. Then you test it, you benchmark it, and then you decide that's actually the winner I want. And that in itself is very difficult. It's time consuming. I think model evaluation being talked about in previous talk. That's one area you can use it, does that automatically for you. So for example, prompt router can be one. If you have a question, you can ask this model, for example, Anthropic or Llama model, Meta prompt router, to choose which one of them actually performs good for you. It's not that most expensive might be better or the largest model might be better. Contrary, so you have to test that to know this. And of course, there are a lot of things around them with this model. There is a matrix here I provide you. These are all parameters you decide what are the models. Which model I should choose, how I should use it, what is trained on. For example, one of the things you might hear it a lot is instruction data. Instruction data is really important because it's time consuming to prepare this data to do that. And there are models, for example, the first ChatGPT, it was literally trained on the open internet. Okay? Now, understanding the business value. So without understanding the business value, that's my always say that, understand what you try to achieve before you say that this technology is the right one. Understanding your business value. For example, I wanted to do financial document summarization. Now, I need a prompt engineer to design initial prompts. How to ask questions, yeah? Then I have a design of initial catalog of prompts. I might have a multiple version of that catalog prompt. And I ask that based on summarize the text for me and give me the most important data point about X and Y, Z. Now you have what is your input, is your data, is your data source, is your instruction. Instruction you are telling the model. For example, when you open a prompt, the most important thing is that you are working an assistant to summarize document for me. Now you told them what your job is. And now LLMs are smart to understand that that's my job now. And actually does a better job rather than say that summarizes document. So simple tweak, it can make a huge difference. And then we get developers shortlist a top model based on the initial findings, and then we can have a loop to really improve the prompt. What are missing in our prompt? For example, this is the answer I'm looking for, it's not there. Maybe I need to change my prompt so that way I get this answer. To evaluate top of a model, then there is a matrix we can use it. Do we have a labeled data or not? If we say yes, then we can ask a question, does the UCAS provide discrete outcome and output? If the answer to that is yes, then to be honest, that's not Gen AI. That's a traditional ML. You can use it to produce an outcome, yes and no, or a number regression. But if the answer for the last one, does the use case provide discrete output and outcome? If it's no, then here you can try traditional as well unsupervised machine learning, like similarity, toxicity, factual knowledge, semantic robustness. So there are like statistical equation, you can put it in place to do that. But I don't have a data now, labeled data. What should I do with it? Should we automate this process or not? If it's automation, then we can say that, sorry, if no automation, then we say that human in the loop. Human look at it, is it correct, is it wrong? So usually at the start now, when you build a RAG solution, you have like a 50 question, you ask it, you give it to an expert, can you check the answers? But how you do that in scale, that's where you need really an automation out of that. That's a reliable large language model with the instruction to do this job for you, or using a service like LLM as a judge, which is in itself is a large language model under the hood with the right instruction to do the job and label it for you. Now let's take an example. So the example here, we have a catalog. We provide a query with a prompt, like asking a list of questions. Some of them you get the answer, some of them there is no answer for them. After we do that, what we need, we select, let's say, these 3 large language models. We get an answer for each one of them. Then that's what we got. We got accuracy, we got similarity, we got scoring for them. As you see that one precision, we have a cosine, we have a score 4 out of 5. Yeah, and the feedback is a free text. Now, you might end up with a sort of a data set in your prompt and test data. So we run these prompts through the model to get this evaluation metrics. Now, a new person that comes in here is called prompt tester. And that's a new job title expected in the next 12 months, if it's already not there. Now, let's say that based on this data on the top, I am aggregating the result for these 3 models. I got these evaluation scores. What do you think is the best model to choose? Any answers? Now, I have a 5 out of 5 for foundational model 1, 3 out of 5 for foundational model 2, 4 out of 5. What do you think which one I should choose? Any guesses? There is no right and wrong answer. The best, 5 out of 5. It depends. It depends what you try to do. Of course, with a model, there are 3 dimensions to it: precision, speed, cost. Now we live in a I remember year 2000 when I was checking my email, it took 5 minutes to press the live, and then I was jumping in happiness. Now it's 5 milliseconds. I said, oh my goodness, too slow. So we like speed. We like the page loaded like in a blink of eyes, 4K Netflix video, series loads without any delays. Then precision, how good it is. Then how much it costs. And these 3, they come hand into hand. So now, speed is not important to me. The use case I have, millisecond or 5 seconds doesn't really make a difference for me. But precision is really critical. Cost is already critical. And of course, any business will love that part. That's why when Tomasz was talking about Amazon Nova models, and they are top-notch compared to they are with the best ones out there, and they are 4 times cheaper. For this million token input and output, they are 4 times cheaper. And that's where it comes, because you listen to customers, it's expensive. I don't want what's cheaper with the same, at least the same performance. I cannot sacrifice any precisions. Now, we have a speed. If you remember the 3 models in the previous slide, 5, 3, 4 ratings. Now, look at their speed. The first one, we rated 5 out of 5. The speed is twice faster than the speed of light, okay? And then we have a precision. In the precision, as you see that, model number 2 actually is performing better. Yeah? Then on the core side, model one, actually the model performance the worst in the scoring is the cheapest one. But if you look at the precision, it's really good precision as well. And it has a one speed in light. Now, when we have more data, then we can decide, actually, what is the best model for my use case? It's not the one performing great. You have to really make a trade-off. What is the need here? So out of these three, you cannot really get all of them at all time. So there is a trade-off. You have to be mindful about it on what's your priorities. Please know that this is an example, okay? It's not a real use case. Just trying to convey an idea. Now, with the Gen AI, we have a team for backend, we have a front end, when there is app developers, and then we have a users. So at the end of the day, when you use LLM, you are the person as a consumer on this side, but actually it takes a lot under the hood to do all of that. You need to select an FM, prompt engineering, test it, do the chaining, do the filtering, that's critical one, guardrails, how I am protecting, what kind of question cannot be asked, what are the keywords to filter it, how to protect personal identifiable information, things like that, where now we are living with a GDPR. So for example, if you have your company data, imagine that your IT use, I don't know, Service Desk or ServiceNow, you submit a ticket to IT. And for IT to find information, they build a RAG solution, which is really great for that. But because the data is used, you submit a ticket, your alias, your name, your email is there. And that become part of the RAG. How I can prevent anybody asking question to get your name out of it? You were the person historically asked this kind of question. That's where guardrail comes in. We want to protect that information. It's very critical. That's why it's really, when you look at the choice of the model, you have to look at the way you implement the guardrails as well. Now, on the front-end side, how we create intelligent application, we need to do all this integration to make sure that the end user have a good experience. And of course, this is sort of a recap of consumers. Always there is this feedback loop, input, output, rating, interaction. So as you can now, if you notice that some of the LM out there now, when you ask a question, they give you two answers and they ask you which one you prefer. And that's the sort of connecting the feedback to actually improve the model in the back end. Okay. So another thing is critical when you have a really scalable solution. You need to give access to users. How easy it is. For example, SageMaker, Unified SageMaker Studio now, it makes it easy because if one of my team works on a data for Gen AI solution, I need to give them access to the data separately. I need to give them access to Bedrock separately. I need to give them SageMaker access separately. But if I'm doing all these separate things, I make mistakes. We are humans, yeah? So now in one place, I have all of that. With a one single click, I can provide all the permission, one single click, revoke everything. And that's really helped make a customer life easier, make a administrative infrastructure or a system easier to manage the security of the company. And of course, one of the things as well to have it here is fine-tune personalized model. So when you are using a model, you can fine-tune, collect all your data internally to fine-tune a model, put it back as a backend, deploy this fine-tuned model, and use it as an API into your solution. Now, this is a journey of a consumer. So consumer selects a model, prompt it, test it, make it available for a front-end application team to integrate it and give a user interface for the consumer to use it. What about the fine-tuners? So for the fine-tuners, we have a human-in-the-loop data labeling. We do a customization of a model. We deploy it, and we do prompt engineering. And then we monitor. Please know that none of the work without monitor. If you want to really build a robust system to see that it works, it has a positive impact, you need to have a really proper monitoring in place. And then the feedback goes from the monitoring back to the labelers into your data when you want to fine-tune your model. And this is becoming really something very popular in pharma industry because you have a lot of intellectual property. You don't want to use any model out there or put your data out there. You just fine-tune, have a human labeling the data. Already they have it because they have a scientist working on that. And they just create a model, they monitor it, provide the feedback, improve the loop. So as you see that the use cases might be completely different per different industry. And of course, you have a pre-trained model. This pre-trained model, you provide thousands of examples of input and output, sort of like a Q&A. You ask a question, this is a perfect answer. You provide it, you fine-tune it, just a traditional training job. You can do that on GPU, or you can do that on the training chips, custom training chips, or you can do it on TPUs. And then get the model, deploy it, use it, input and output. And of course, what you can do as well, you can do parameter efficient fine-tuning, where you have a low computation power here, and you are adding few small layers to your large language model. So this is more about the techniques you can do fine-tuning. You can take the model as is, you can take some of the layers of the model, or you can add more layers to the model architecture. When we talk about this large language model, if you know deep neural network, to be honest, they're very simple. You'll be amazed how these architectures are simple. And that's the beauty of it, how simple it is. At the same time, it's very complex, because it all depends on how you put the data, how you provide instruction to this architecture, traditionally speaking. You can build a ChatGPT yourself literally in 2 hours. Probably there's already a ton of videos on YouTube how to implement the architecture and build that model for yourself. You just need a compute. Okay. Now, I think he talked a lot about SageMaker. SageMaker have all this life cycle. I will be going a bit faster on that. You do experiments, then you industrialize it, you make it accessible. Now, for LM life cycle, what you have a label data, you process this data, then you can fine tune it, you can evaluate it, and compare the result of your models. That's the first thing of fine tuning. Second thing, you need versioning. When you train a model, you might train hundreds of them. I can tell you that we worked on a project where every 15 minutes, we were training almost 10,000 models in parallel. Then tracking that is a nightmare. Every 15 minutes, a model, imagine that you will have a 96 model in 24 hours multiplied by almost 10,000. Then you need a mechanism to track that, how I can know which version it is, where it is, what's the data used to train it, what's the performance looks like. So you need a lineage for that. And of course, saving all this artifact in a safe place, if I want to use them or something like that, depending on the company policy. Then you are serving this model, you deploy them at the endpoint. So the endpoint, just imagine that the endpoint is like, you have a computer, you just put a model on it and you can use it. It should run on a computer, but the computer is not a physical like this, it's just somebody else's computer somewhere. Now, we know that there's like a few big companies doing that. Then you do monitoring. Now, when you do monitoring, it's very important to actually deploy alerts. For example, I'm expecting this model performance to be this way, but now it's changed slightly this way, or it's too good to be true. Sometimes it's really performance like 100%. I have seen cases like that where models say that, okay, I have a 99.7% performance. We look at it and then, oh, you didn't remove your labels. It happens. So that's why monitoring is small things, but we all make these kind of mistakes. That's why it's always important to have a monitoring. That monitoring gives you different perspective. Then we have a prompt preparation, then we do the guardrail, and then we provide this endpoint as a API for end user to use it part of an application. Of course, if you need this architecture, you can just cut this QR code if that's something you want, or at the end I can show it to you to do that. So that's a life cycle for that. And of course, you can provide this feedback again to collect more data and use this data again to evaluate your model. So the cycle continues to do that. So that part, I think I talked about it. That's the MLOps architecture. I talked about it, how you prepare data, how you put it in production. But with this data preparation under the hood, probably you have a multiple system, multiple version of your data, raw data, staging data, production data. You have a label data, you have a structured, unstructured data, all of that. That's a data team. Then you have a generative AI application. This is a generative Gen AI solution that you will be serving this data as an API. You have your model trained somewhere. And that looks actually too complex. It takes a lot of effort. How we simplify that? And I think that's where now we come to these layers. And if we do all of that, if you look at the number one, we are having the model, we need a data to train our model. Then we train our model. Sorry, going back. Then when we train our model, we make our model, when we prepare our data, we put our data in data lake. So the data is available. Then the data goes to SageMaker to train your model, do all the things I talked about, it, evaluate it, deploy it. Now we train our model, evaluate it. Now we put it in production through an API. We made it available to end user. And that's the way you can do it. It's a lot of effort. It costs a lot to everybody train their own model. And even if you have money, you might not be lucky to get compute. It's so demanding. That's where all comes in. That part, which I just talked about it, is Amazon Bedrock. If you have a LLM, if you have a data, you can do all of that in a couple of click ops. So that's where Amazon Bedrock comes in. You can't do all of that yourself still. AWS is all about choice. You can do all of that. You still have this choice. But if you don't have a team, you want to move fast, that's a service for that. It might cost a bit extra, but still is much cheaper if you do everything yourself and it's faster. Now, with the people and process, that was a traditional machine learning model. Now what we change, we need to make some spaces. Here, if you didn't notice something showed up here, we need fine-tuners. So previously, the personnel were data scientists and ML engineers. Now we have a new personnel. We have a new job title. It's called fine-tuners. These are the people expert in end-to-end ML lifecycle and natural language processing, or computer vision, or even voice, speech. With that, now we have another personnel here for data labelers. That they have an UI, they get the data, they label the data, or there is a question, they give us access. That's a two new personnel. And then we have application people. Before, we didn't need that. You just need an API, app dev at the end will integrate it. But now we have a Gen AI developers, we have a prompt engineers, and we have an app dev that can do really integration of a generative to create intelligent application. So as you see, the personalities is really evolving. The jobs, or you call it job titles, is evolving. The responsibility role is evolving. And that's an opportunity actually in the next couple of years, if that's an area you wanted to develop your skills, to be first to the market that have a 2 years experience compared to anybody else when you're applying for this type of job. And then what we have, we need now an UI to provide generative AI to the end users. That's, as you see that, for those which do fine-tuning, they fit in a traditional MLOps structure, but there are new personalities, personas that goes to the picture. What about providers? And these are the giants, the people with the deep pockets, and they have a massive data labeling. If you know that, I remember many years ago, Andrew Ng, which is probably anybody did ML, probably did his course on Coursera. He said, data is a new oil, if I'm not misquoting here. And anyone has a good quality data, that person wins. For example, Amazon came with Amazon Nova. It was not alluded as a party. AWS was the first company out there, almost first company out there to be actually using AI internally. Probably use Alexa, probably a lot of things you see on Amazon.com or websites. It was AI. But this is the first time they made it publicly available with Amazon Nova launch. So buy data. If you have data, good quality data, not garbage in, garbage out, then you can really build a lot of good models. So it takes time. You need really time to train these models. I think there was a report recently that almost 80% of a GPU sold in the last year, it was 3 company voted. So whatever produces goes, there's just like people just put in order for the next 5 years, majority went to them. So who has the compute, who has the data? Because that takes a lot of time to train them. You need a lot of mathematical calculations. That's why the race for atomic computers really, or quantum computers is really accelerating. There is a huge push for that. Even competitors out there in the market collaborating together on that. That we can do trillions and trillions of operation in milliseconds rather than now we do it in seconds. Then you deploy it. You deploy this, you provide it as a service. So this one looks easy, but under the hood, it really takes a lot of effort, money, compute, quality data to do that. And of course, to productionize it, you can still do that with FM. The only thing changed is just the data. Yeah. Now, zooming in on this part, this is a part for you to how you are labeling your data in your data lake. Okay. Then, now what you can do, AWS have a service for that. It's called Hyperport. Because one of the big issue is, I can tell you that 2 years ago, I was fine-tuning GPT-J. That was equivalent of GPT-3, but it was open sourced. And the biggest problem I had, it was utilization of GPUs. If I have 8 GPUs, how I distribute my training and data, actually, I can utilize GPUs. And I was struggling with that a lot. Not just me, we're like a group of people working on that together, figuring out how to maximize the use of GPUs. Because when you do one operation, 2 GPU works, 6 of them sits there. Because they cannot be utilized, because the way instruction mathematics works is sequential. How you distribute that is very challenging. Or even the data. Now Hyperport do that automatically for you. So you will not suffer like me. I did it with a bunch of others for like almost 10 months to fine tune that. If you are interested, you can search AWS blog post, you will find it. Fine tune GPT-J on AWS. Of course, using Hyperport, it saves you money, time, ease of success, ease of use, and it's optimized as well for resource utilization. Now, I talked a lot about things, but for you, my sitting here listening to me is that, okay, how I can do this? Yeah, it's not about, yeah, this is cool. You know how to do it. Probably you know people how to do it if I don't know it myself. That's nice, but how I get started? Of course, I will try to share some stuff with you that you can get started actually. It's not difficult because there are a lot of open source materials out there to start. One of them is understanding the Gen AI stack on AWS. Please know that this is not the extensive list, it's just a sample. First, you have applications, layer. That's an end user. Then you have a tools to build. That's for the consumers or developers. Then you have infrastructure as a foundational models. For any of that, you have a choice. If you person likes to use something out of a box, Amazon Q Developer is a fantastic assistant. I can tell you that AWS migrated Java applications from I think Java 13 to 17, or I don't remember the version. They saved almost 400 years of a human time using Amazon Q Developer. It was like very complex applications. I'm not talking about simple 10, 15 line. Very complex application being migrated, upgraded in Java. So Amazon Q Developer really helped with that. And of course, there's a lot of public data. Also, there's a lot of AWS proprietary data being trained on. Now it comes everywhere in your account because it's really helpful. It can debug things for you and solve issues for you. And of course, Amazon Code Whisperer, that's previously we called it Code Whisperer, now we call it Amazon Q Developer, the name changed. That's why I said that this might not be the part. So the tools to build things, Amazon Bedrock, Unified SageMaker, Studio, SageMaker, Amazon Data Zone. There's a lot of services that you can use it. And of course, if you like to get your hand dirty, go to the lower level, you can just get the chips and you do it yourself. And that's the fun part, actually. It's tough, but you really learn a lot of cool stuff, how things work, if that's interest for you. And one of the things as well is very critical is that is not just deploying these models in the performance on a big computer, how I can deploy them on my phone. On this phone, I have a multiple LM actually running. So if I am on a phone call, I can translate it live. So I don't speak Polish good. I use this feature. I call and it translates. I'm speaking English, they hear Polish, they speak Polish, I hear English. Or summarize, if I have a voice, it will exactly generate all the subtitle, provides a summary. If I have an image, I can find similar. So there's a lot of LLM you can actually do that. There's a lot of stuff in the internet. There's too much that nobody can catch up on it. With that, now, how you can get started. So one of the things about solutioning is a lot of solution out there, what they are built, put on a GitHub, and they talk about it. This code, I built a super cool solution that you can deploy it and use it. And you as a developer, your boss coming to you, oh, we saw this cool stuff. Can you build it for us? And you say, yeah, let me check it out. And then you go there, you want to build it. Actually, we need to change something in it. Simple, but you literally struggle to do that. Building it from scratch is fast and easier for you and more joyful. That's been a painful. I have been through this pain a lot. That's why we developed something modular. We call it AIOps modules. That's an open source. So AIOps module is anything related to AI and data that's used for AI. So there are modules, they are modular. So if you wanted to build a rack, only a rack, you can take the module for rack. I want to build a rack and I want to pre-process my data, you can select these two models. I want to deploy SageMaker setup for me that I can just go log in without clicking here, setting up all the stuff. One single line of code. You don't need to learn any new programming language. Excuse me. You don't need to learn any programming language. So it's a package, you take it, there is an instruction. If you want to do that, run the single line, it does it for you. It does a job at a time. So that way, if you wanted to use 10 things of that, you can take 10 of them, it connects together. Rather than taking a solution that all of that are mixed, you don't know what to do, or you might not need 10 things inside, you just need 3 things. Then you're afraid, should I delete this file? Anything breaks? And it will stay there for 10 years and becomes a legacy code, a nightmare, nobody want to touch it. So that's why this solution is a modular. We are actively developing actually that, and there will be a lot of new model coming this year. We have a big plan for that. The second thing is that generative AI for builders. That's a workshop. If you are here, I'm guessing you are using AWS, at least among others. Start there, you can use that. Even if you cannot deploy it, then definitely you can look into it, see that how it works. Another thing is that a lot of things I discussed on the slide I showed it is in this blog post. You can check it out as well on third one. And the fourth one is how to operationalize evaluation at scale. So Gena is easy to build. I am amazed how many skilled developers I see that they quickly build cool stuff for you very quickly that they never even done it before. And I'm amazed by that all the time. But the next step is that, then what's next? Can it scale? Can it be secure? That's why you need to think of these questions before building any solution. Who are the end user? What it takes to provide them with a service that they will be happy about. Now, any questions? Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I hope that I said a lot of things. I hope that was not complex. That's was my concern always, because I haven't asked you at the start, what's your background? That's a question I should have asked in retrospective.
One question from me for sure is, at the beginning you said about speeding up the things in many different regions of like development and just work. One of those was security. And I'm interested, what's your point of view on security managed by AI or LLMs and whatever keyword would be? Because currently there's a lot of like compliance things when, well, we cannot allow data into LLMs, or we cannot trust them, and it still has to be done by the people. So what's your point on that? If you think it will like exchange people, maybe?
If I understand your question correctly, is that how is the security in Gen AI now in terms of using
Gen AI for security? So, for example, I don't know, scanning the code, scanning the documents, rating the documents, rating like, I don't know, support tickets, stuff like that.
I will answer that with the code. There is a businessman in US. He said that AI doesn't take your job. A person who uses AI, Gen AI, takes your job. Why is this important? Because Gen AI is trained on data out there. It depends on the quality of the data. If the data quality is not accurate, the answer you are getting will be not accurate. That's why always I say that if you use a Gen AI, just don't take it blindly. Double check it. Or there are ways you are using Gen AI. There are parameters, input, like temperature, or things like that. You can actually tweak that. How much the model, how much a question you are asking an LLM should be artistic answer, which look less like hallucinations, or more accurate side of things. That's all defines how you set up these parameters. As I said, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't recommend use Gen AI to answer all your security questions, keep you safe, but you can use it as an assistant to actually provide you with the resources, then go check it out. Is it the right way to do that? Because one of the things I found that the large language model really great about it is to give me ideas. Because it's trained on the internet data, there are a ton of people out there with a lot of amazing ideas where you never come through these ideas. LLM can summarize that for you and give you an idea. This click here that, oh, I haven't thought of this. Let's go check out.
Yeah, that's true. Like for searching information is great. So do we have any other questions? Oh, there's one.
I have a kind of follow-up question for the previous one. Is there in your framework somewhere, somehow, any kind of countermeasures against taint data, contaminated, that would, in the processing, later processing, corrupt the model itself, so it will either not work properly or will hallucinate more than usual?
This is a decision for the consumer, for the providers or fine-tuners. If the data they are controlling, if the data they want a good quality model, they need to have a good labelers to label the data. Of course, I'm here talking about non-nefarious acts that people do things on purpose. I'm just talking things about happens by chance or by lack of knowledge rather than on purpose. So it's critical to have this data labeled at a high quality with a sort of a Q&A with high quality to make it part of a fine-tuning on an LLM to use that. But if you are training a model, if you look at the large language models like ChatGPT at the start, and now you look at the quality of it, actually rate of hallucination went down. Why? Because probably, I don't know, probably they invested a lot on a good labeling on the data. That's the one thing. Second thing is that how you do evaluation of LLM. I mentioned a lot of evaluation. This is very critical because if you are evaluating these models as an LLM messenger, what does it mean? You have an LLM, you ask a question, it gives you an answer. When it gives you this answer, you don't have a gold standard to compare that answer to it. What you do, you ask an LLM, hey, can you write this answer for me? Now, this is one LLM. You can have a 10 LLM from 10 different providers, 10 different models. Ask all of them, can you read this question for me? Now, you have a 10 LLM. You got the same answer. They all give a rating to you. Now, what you can do an assemble model, like a traditional tree models, like XGBoost, for example, very popular. Which one is the best? Always democracy wins. Yeah, in this case, if you have an answer, 6 model give a good rating, that's a good answer. But if I have a answer and then 6 models said that actually I give it 3 out of 5, then I will be contentious about it. Why is that? So then here it goes back to evaluation mechanism to use how you do prompt engineering. Should I fine-tune the model further, or what I need to change in my data?
Okay, but still, is there any safety? Is there any safety in case that this data is corrupted on purpose, some way, somehow? For example, image. The image can be changed on the so low level in the image data that the person who reviews this image, this person sees this image, he or she can describe what's on this image. However, for example, in the pixels, there can be slightly different. And
I understand what you're here pointing out. As I said, this is all controlled by the data providers, what they want to do. And it's LLM in itself, it's provide you the answer based on the data we're trained on. It doesn't make up really, it doesn't bring anything, it just bring what information I have it, and this is come from data source. This is all depend on who provide the data. What are the safeguards you have there from company to company, from provider to providers, they have a different policies. Cannot really comment on that or say that we have a service can detect that. But of course, if you just to add to that, if you look at the current image generations, for example, AWS Nova Canvas, it has actually watermark. It's a hidden sort of inside the image. I know that this image is actually AI generated. And there is a lot of provider going this direction. There are things also you can provide it if you, for example, at the end use Gen AI generated videos and pictures, you can watermark them. So there are mechanisms like that you can rightly put in place. But of course, you cannot control the internet.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Also adding to the last, in case of trainings, I don't think it would be easy to detect malicious data, but at least for like the responses from LLMs, there are already like different solutions for like having different LLMs working as something as firewall. So for example, Meta had Purple Llama. There is also like some heuristics based, and basically they are rating your answer if based on your question, the answer is malicious or not. So this is also like a way of trying to defend before this malicious thing.
Yeah, it's just at the end, when you use a model, it depends what monitoring guardrail and evaluation you do. And that's a part you can minimize the risk of that. But at the risk at the start of the data coming from a data provider, that's very difficult for me to say anything about. It just depends on the data label policy, agreements, and monitoring stuff like that. So that's something I can't say that anything about this because I really don't have experience with it. But the end part, I can tell you a lot about. Happy to discuss it if you want more.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Maybe question from internet? Okay, so do you have any other sites? So that was the end.
Yeah, now.
Oh, okay.
Quiz time. Let's say that I said a lot of things, and I hope that. I think that was not a good idea to have a presentation after pizza. Yeah?
Okay, then let's give a big round of applause.
So we still need a little bit of time, right, for a quiz. Okay, let's see the people scanning codes. There is a wallet, right? Send all your money there. Just don't worry. Accept everything. It's perfect. A little scam.
You just need to input your mail and password to log in.
Yeah, for
You can
everywhere.
send the question.
Yeah. Your keychain certificate. Yeah, exactly. You know, just let's synchronize it together.
We are just giving out the AWS vouchers, so it's worth it to do that.
Yeah, sell.
So if you have any challenge or if you like to start your journey, just give us reach out. So if you wanted to really learn more about this or just kick off your generative AI or develop your skills, reach out. You know, there's a lot of things out there we can help you with or guide you to develop yourself in this area. And I think that will be something helps you to do your job better and be happier and less stressful.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that it's plenty of materials as well on the net, and the market is booming with that subject. So I think that it's worth to look in it. And like you said, it's next year's. It's pretty good career path, especially that for most of the people, this technology is magic. So you know, it's good to be somebody who understands that and actually knows what he's or she's talking about, right? So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, right now it's even hard to like work in tech and don't know anything about AI. Like I saw yesterday, I think on Reddit, the like graph of every company with every AI, Gen AI and feature and like that. And it's like everybody. Like probably if we would take any company from top 500 SP or something, every one of them would have some Gen AI.
I don't even
feature.
think that it's about technology. You know, recently I saw washing tabs, right, for a washing machine, AI powered. I was really curious, you know, though, how they get to that. So, you know, this 2 letters is just making the world crazy, and it's good to be that train. Are you ready? The quiz. Did you finish the quiz? Everybody finish? Cool. Maria, do you have our picks? Okay, so who they are? Come on here. I will give you a microphone, and you can read it out.
GDPR cannot.
All right. So the first person is someone who has email beginning with J. Makarczuk. All right.
Internet or here?
Maybe from internet.
Okay, so with internet, the voucher will be sent over.
Exactly, yeah. Second person, second winner is Newkers.
Hello.
Get a socks for being here. You're so cold.
Let's go, a round of applause.
How much you get? 2,000 euros. Do we have gloves?
What?
Do we have a blouse?
No.
No, we don't.
No. All right. All right. The third person is Jacek. Laukus.
Congrats.
Yeah, you need to get in on the stage because you said that. Just watch out on the skateboard, okay? Yes, just don't die on the stage. Congratulations, you get a socks and the vouchers coming in. Nice to have. I will not bring you, this big check.
We are still waiting for the checks.
Yeah, we're still waiting. Jeff?
Next one is Black Alpha 1.
Wow.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. Here's your proof and coming on the vouchers. Thank you very much.
And we have the last but not least people.
So,
Yeah, but we have a bottle and a cup.
yeah.
The last would be the first.
Yeah, it is Mikolk.
Congrats.
It's a pleasure. So we have another one, or there is no meeting?
No, that's
Okay.
it will be on the next meeting.
Okay,
Maybe.
so also for
Yeah.
why are we not giving out for the question?
Yeah, actually there was one question. So
Congrats. You got the second prize.
Thank you very much.
As you see, it's worth to ask questions. You can get a lot of stuff, or you can get upgraded to be here because they don't want you to get too many prizes.
Yeah, thank you very much. 72nd meeting of AWS User Group Kraków. It seems to go to the end. This year we plan a little more meetings coming in. So watch our meetup page and subscribe, click like, click, for this, how they saying this YouTube, they click this, this ring, subscribe, yeah, wherever. I know, but the most important, came here, remember, this stage can be yours as well, because every time we're trying to bring somebody from community, so there is a lovely representative from AWS, but as well, somebody from here today was Tomasz. But if you want to say something, it's not necessarily needs to be full time presentation, 45 minutes long run. It can be 15 minutes, then how you feel comfortable. This place, it's open for you as well to participate.
Remember that if you think that everybody knows what you want to share, that's probably not true. There's a lot of people who